How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining me. I know you're
No,
traveling.
absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. I know you're traveling, so you're busy and flying here and flying there. You're currently in San Francisco, is that correct?
Yes, I'm in San Diego right now.
Oh, San
And
Diego, okay.
yes, it's a beautiful weather here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for talking with Viva Magazine. We came across your book, and your book is called Seven Essentials to Transform Your Life. And who doesn't want to know how to transform their life? So, can
Absolutely.
you tell us a little bit about your background as a doctor and why you decided to share this book and how this all came about? Can you tell us a little backstory?
Absolutely. I'm actually not a medical doctor. I'm a PhD in metallurgical engineering, which is more into extraction of metals like
Okay.
gold and silver and copper and all kinds of metals.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been working in the technology and innovation area for the last 2 decades or so. And for me, technology, when I look at technology, it has been a boon to the humanity. Look around what technology has done for us, comfort, convenience, all kinds of. See, we are talking, I'm in San Diego, you're in Toronto, we're talking to
Yeah.
each other through Skype. That's marvelous. But when I look around, Diana, what I find that there's so much of stress, so much of depression, so many health issues, physical, mental, emotional, which really bothered me. And technology is supposed to make our life better, make our life healthier. Yet when you look around, it looks just the opposite. So that really intrigued me. And that was the reason, that was the curiosity I had as to why is it so? Why is it such a gap between what technology is supposed to do for us and what we're getting out of it?
Mm-hmm.
And I worked in the corporate world for the last 20 years or so and travel across 6 different continents, meeting all kinds of people. What I found that when I've been talking to some of the senior executives or senior leaders, they've been asking me the same question. Look, I had such a wonderful, schooling, education, career. I made some wealth for me and for my loved ones. And also, I did the right things. I ate the right food. I did meditation and I did all kinds of right things. But yet I'm not fulfilled. Even my health is not optimum either.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of
So,
people can relate to that
and
feeling.
I
Yeah.
absolutely. So I feel the same thing. So that was the curiosity, and that was the beginning of my journey, to see, what are the reasons why we feel this way, and what we could do about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the outcome of the whole research and the whole, interaction with all kinds of people, all walks of life, whether it's doctors, medical doctors, or yogis, or people on the street, farmers, native people. So everybody I have interacted with while I've been traveling as part of my work, and I found that there are seven essentials that are key. If we can bring these seven essentials to our life, then our life gets better and we have the right priorities. We actually leverage technology in a right way so that it's beneficial to us. So the outcome of all that is my book here, which is the in the seven essentials.
Perfect.
And I'm so happy that this is now released, and many of my friends and many of my colleagues, they have given the reviews. I'm happy that this is out now in Amazon.
Congratulations on the book, really. It's full of amazing information and things that I think people are maybe not really thinking about on an everyday level. Like, people are told the basics, like make sure you drink your water and make sure you get your sleep and make sure you keep your stress levels low. But there aren't that many concrete techniques that people are sort of told, like, practice this in this particular way for this type of benefit. And I think when you break it down into those micro topics, it becomes a little bit easier to understand just how many functions this body actually has. Almost like the way that I see it, there's like a million buttons that you can be
Right.
pressing at
Yes.
different times to see the different results. And one of those things that you talk about in your book is conscious breathing. And when I came across your point about conscious breathing, I thought to myself, well, first of all, breathing is sort of like, to me, such an obvious thing. It's sort of like drinking water, but it's something that is really difficult to focus on an everyday level. And then I started to pay attention to my own breathing, and I noticed it was very shallow. So it doesn't actually frequently go all the way into my lungs or into my stomach. And I think a lot of people probably have very shallow breathing or very
Yes.
unconscious breathing. So can you tell me about conscious breathing and why it's so important for us to practice conscious breathing?
Absolutely. So, as part, the seven essentials, the number one is breathing life force. I call it life force because, we can live without food and water for days and weeks. I've seen some people, living without food for a month or two, So that's the kind of fasting a lot of people do. But without breathing, we cannot live even for a few minutes. So that's the immensity of breathing. So, and amazing, how we have taken it for granted. We just
Yes.
breathe. And what happens is because of our lifestyle, our breathing has become shallow because we haven't really paid attention to it. And that's the reason why we have majority of the problems. And the reason is, look, if you look at how our body produces energy. For example, we eat, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but unless you have oxygen to digest it and convert that into energy, it's no good. So that's why I strongly feel that conscious breathing is very, very important, and to make sure that we bring breathing in every aspect of our living. There's one thing I like to mention, Diana, is that the only thing that will ever live with you is your breath until your last breath.
Right.
The only thing that will ever live with you is your breath until your last breath. So why don't we make breath as our best friend? Because this is going to stay with us all our life.
Yes, of course.
So why not? Exactly.
And you
So,
talk about that, but you also talk about prana and the life force energy.
Yes.
So can
Yes,
you talk a little bit
absolutely.
about that, and how can we bring more prana into our life through breathing, and what can breathing actually do to improve our life in a concrete
Yes.
way? What can it do?
Definitely. So, breathing is the fundamental to our living. Breathing produces energy. Breathing actually allows air to come into the body. And I'm saying air in a very loose term because it's not just air, which is a composition of different, different elements, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, and all kinds of gases. But that's a very technical scientific term. The prana is much more than just air and oxygen. It is a life force. It inculcates a lot of different energies, not just simple elements that gets into the body. So there's no point going into details of that. That's a different subject altogether. But when you bring prana into your oxygen into your system, you feel energized all of a sudden. For example, I've seen in Toronto, for example, we live in closed doors sometimes in the cold winters, and as soon as you get out, even in the middle of the winter, you feel so energized. Why is that? Sometimes I've seen a lot of people go running and jogging. The reason why they go running and jogging is because after, maybe it may be a little bit difficult sometimes when you start it, but after you finish your jog, you feel so good. Why? Because your body is completely energized, because you have got so much of oxygen or air in your system, which is helping you to build the energy that the body needs to function. So that's the fundamental aspect about breathing.
So it's basically getting more oxygen into your whole body consciously.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Oxygen is
Key. Right.
Yeah, oxygen is so fundamental to our living that if you look at the composition, it's almost 70 to 80% of what we are is actually oxygen.
70 to
If you
80%.
look at, because yeah, absolutely, our body is almost 2/3 water, and if you look into the composition of that, oxygen is almost 70-80% or 90%
Okay.
of the total water. So essentially we are made of oxygen.
Yes.
If you think that way.
Okay. That's very important to know I think for most people. So can you please tell us in today's interview how we can actually maybe practice getting more oxygen into our body? Is there a technique that you can share with us from your book?
Yes, absolutely, Diana. In my book, I have mentioned 7 different ways of bringing this prana into our bodies. But the most fundamental thing is deep breathing is the most important one. And how you breathe is also very important, And one thing we must realize that, the way we move our bodies, the pattern of breathing changes completely. For example, if you hold your hands like this, and if you breathe deeply, you'll be breathing you're breathing through your diaphragm or from your chest?
I'm not sure. I think this is the chest.
Yeah. And when you turn the other way,
much deeper.
Much deeper. So essentially what happens is when you turn your hands like this, you breathe through your from your chest.
Okay.
When you go like this, you breathe through your diaphragm. I mean, this is something that I have noticed. And also when you move your hands sideways, again, the breathing pattern changes. So, we move our bodies in so many different ways throughout the day. You can imagine what are we doing to our breathing patterns, So people who are very conscious, they're aware of all these movements of how the breathing pattern is happening. The whole idea of deep breathing is to be able to maximize our lung capacity. Because as we grow older, our lung capacity actually goes down quite a bit. And in fact, some of the numbers that I've seen are quite startling. For example, we lose almost 70-80% of our lung capacity as we go older, say, plus 50 or 60. A lot of people, which is quite amazing. And that's the reason why we feel weak and we don't feel. So the first thing is how to maximize your lung capacity through deep breathing. So there are various techniques available, and yogis have been, in particular, they have mastered this. They have done a lot of research over thousands of years, and they have mastered this. So there are various techniques that could be utilized.
Okay.
But a simple technique to start with is to actually start with a count of, say, 5. You breathe in deeply with a count of 5, then hold for a count of 5, and then breathe out for a count of 5. It's a very simple technique which anybody can practice anywhere, actually. And that by itself is very powerful. And then once you get more comfortable, more consistent, then you can increase your count from 5 to, say, 10. So you can practice, say, for example, you can just say 5, and then hold for 5, and then breathe out completely for 5. Now, the simple practice can help a lot of people. I know a lot of people, especially in the corporate world, they have benefited a lot just from doing this very simple practice.
And how long would you do? Sorry to interrupt you, doctor. And how long would you do that for? The breathing of 5 and then releasing of 5. How long would you do that for?
So it depends on how much time you have, but I would say you can repeat this for, say, 3 to 5 times to start with, and then maybe 10. And typically, I like doing it maybe, say, if I have a presentation or if I'm going for a meeting, I like to do this for, say, 20, 21 times.
Okay.
I find that number to be really good, 21.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be that way. It all depends on, how much you're comfortable with.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add to the deep breathing dialogue, to the tips?
Yes. So the other thing about deep breathing is we have to be conscious about not just the breathing part, but also where we are breathing. For example, if you're breathing in the middle of a city where there's a lot of pollution, obviously it's not going to help you. So we have to be very conscious. The whole idea about my book is to bring awareness to everything that we do. If we do it blindly, we'll be ingesting a lot of pollutant actually in our body. If you start deep breathing in the middle of a city where, there's a car gushing by.
Right.
So the whole point of this book is to be aware.
Okay.
And so that's why I highly recommend that everybody, should be going to the natural setups, even though you may be living in the middle of the city, but still you have Ontario Lake close by, just go around, or maybe some forest or some kind of a natural setup. Go there, and then you can do deep breathing as well. In rooms, inside the rooms is okay, because it's much safer, but especially when you are walking around in the streets, where there's pollution, I think you have to be more careful.
Okay.
So that's number one. And also, I highly recommend, people in industrial pollution is something that I've seen where the oxygen content in the air is very low. It's supposed to be around 21% ideally, the oxygen content in the atmosphere. But in many places I've noticed, it's very low. Sometimes it goes below even 10%. You should not be living there. So I think it's good to be in a place where, where it's much safer, where the oxygen content in the air is actually high, so that you can maximize the benefits from breathing, deep breathing. It's very, very important. So the best thing is to go to the nature.
Wonderful.
Nothing can beat that.
Yes, of course. Are there any other techniques that you want to share before we tell people where they can purchase your book?
So there are many other techniques, but I think just to keep it simple, let's start with the
5 seconds.
Count of 5, 10. Yes.
Perfect.
And after that, I'd say that be aware of where you are and where you're deep breathing. Go to the nature as much as possible. And also, breathing is about not just about air. There's lots more things involved. I've seen breathing calms the mind, has lots of other benefits too. But I also highly recommend that we should be eating foods that are also high in oxygen content. For example, fresh fruits and vegetables. Eating raw as much as possible. Very, very good for you, because the oxygen content in those fruits and vegetables are very high as well. Water. We must drink pure water, because water is H2O, which is mostly oxygen. So that's where also it's very important to make sure that we also drink the right kind of water, which is also explained in my book as well. What is the right kind of water, which is a topic for probably a next discussion.
That would be an amazing topic, actually. I would love to talk to you about that. Definitely.
Yeah, water is a big thing. We are, mainly water anyway.
Yeah.
So I think we just have to be more aware of our breath, and we have to make sure that we breathe in such a way that whole lung capacity is utilized. There are 3 areas of lungs: lower, middle, and upper. It's utilized, and there are different ways of actually making it happen. But let's start simple and be aware of your breath as much as possible throughout the day. Even if you're very busy, doesn't matter. Just be aware of your breath. That's going to be very important. And once we do this awareness, once you're aware, we will start bringing in new ideas and new ways of even optimizing what we're doing. So with that in mind, I feel that let's start simple, and after we start, we'll start to already, get lots of other inputs from various sources.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for sharing some of your knowledge today with us and your research. And can you please tell us where people can get a copy of your book?
Yes, so my book is available at Amazon, amazon.ca.com, and also in Barnes and Nobles and Indigo. So
perfect.
It's available.
Wonderful.
And I also have a website which one can go, and also there's lots more details about all my 7 essentials. It's called 7ilifestyle.com. 7ilifestyle.com.
And we'll put that in the link as well. It's 7 spelled SEVEN,
yes.
Then I.
No, actually it's number 7.
Number
Sorry, it's
7.
number 7. 7i lifestyle.
I like an
.com.
I or an I?
I. Letter I.
Letter
7
I.
letter I lifestyle.com.
Perfect. We'll include it in the link for our viewers. So thank you so much for joining Viva Magazine today. We really, I loved speaking with you and learning some of your wisdom, and I really look forward to chatting with you again soon. Hopefully next time we can cover some more topics, maybe talk about water, talk about some of the other interesting topics that you cover in your book. Travel safe, enjoy the warm weather. We've had a big snowstorm here today, so thank you. Enjoy the sunshine.
I will. Thank you very much, Diana. All the best.
All the best. Take care.